Welcome back to Plot Munchers. Today we're plunging into the frostbitten world of the 1984 sci-fi thriller Iceman. Picture this. A team of workers, braving the icy wilderness of the Arctic, is drilling deep within a frozen cave when they stumble upon something extraordinary. A mysterious object encased in ice. With great care, they extract a massive block of ice containing this enigmatic discovery and transport it via helicopter to a nearby laboratory. The scientists at the lab quickly grasp the significance of their find and send an urgent message to the excavation company, demanding an immediate halt to all drilling operations. They also request the assistance of an expert to uncover the secrets hidden within the ice. Enter Dr. Stanley, an anthropologist specializing in Arctic studies and Eskimo culture. Upon arriving at the lab, Stanley is introduced to Dr. Diana and the rest of the scientific team. The team is buzzing with excitement, convinced they've unearthed a prehistoric animal. Their hopes are fueled by the historical discovery of a mammoth with viable cells in Russia back in 1898. They dream of similar breakthroughs. Using a laser, the team meticulously slices through the ice layer by layer, careful not to damage whatever lies within, but their expectations are shattered when they discover that the frozen figure isn't an animal at all. It's a Neanderthal human, preserved in the ice for tens of thousands of years. Dr. Stanley examines the body and estimates that this Neanderthal lived between 40,000 and 100,000 years ago. The team confirms that the body's size aligns with that of a typical Neanderthal. While Stanley is fascinated by the anthropological implications, the rest of the team is more focused on dissecting the body for further analysis, eager to send samples to research centers worldwide. The scientists begin thawing the Neanderthal, removing his clothing and tools to conduct tissue tests. They hook him up to a brain monitoring system and are stunned to find that his organs and cells are in astonishingly good condition. Dr. Diane speculates that ancient humans might have possessed cryoprotective cells, which prevent tissue crystallization in freezing environments. The team becomes obsessed with the idea of reviving the Neanderthal. After conducting a series of tests, they detect faint brain activity and decide to attempt resuscitation. Using defibrillators to stimulate his heart, they succeed in bringing the Neanderthal back to life. Mabel, observing everything through the cameras, is astounded by how much Charlie, the name they've given him, can communicate at this stage. One evening, as the team gathers around a fire, Stanley begins to sing. Charlie, clearly enjoying the music, encourages him to continue while playing with bones from his meal. He even joins in, making happy noises and attempting to sing along. Later, the scientists decide to put Charlie back to sleep, to conduct more experiments. They place him in a specialized chamber with extremely low temperatures, hoping to activate the cryoprotectants in his body for easier extraction. Stanley, however, protests vehemently, arguing that they're treating Charlie like a lab animal and causing him harm. As Charlie's heartbeat slows dangerously, the scientists realize they must abort the experiment. They remove him from the chamber and return him to the vivarium. Charlie, now furious, lashes out at Stanley. He's visibly distressed by the endless experiments and the fresh scars covering his body. In a moment of raw emotion, Charlie pretends to attack Stanley, slamming his spear into the ground and poking Stanley's chest, pleading for help to end his suffering. Stanley refuses, and after a tense struggle, he leaves the vivarium. Later, Stanley approaches Diane privately, expressing his concerns. He believes the relentless experiments are alienating Charlie, making communication increasingly difficult. Stanley suggests that Diane accompany him into the vivarium, hoping her presence might soothe Charlie. When they enter, they find Charlie using rock powder to draw a bird on the ground, tracing the scars on his wounded hands. Diane grows nervous as Charlie suddenly runs toward her, but after sniffing her, he offers her some of his food. Despite it being made from bugs, Diane eats it to avoid offending him. Charlie initially behaves in a friendly manner, but then begins to touch Diane inappropriately. Stanley intervenes swiftly, using the Neanderthal word for mind to assert boundaries and diffuse the tense situation. Later, Charlie emerges from his cave carrying various objects, attempting to barter them for Diane's release. Stanley, however, firmly rejects the offer. Upon seeing Diane, Charlie's demeanor shifts to one of sorrow, and he begins repeating the same phrases incessantly. Mabel observes this behavior closely and deduces that she has identified Charlie's word for woman, though she remains uncertain about another aspect of his communication. Stanley and Diane attempt to coax Charlie into explaining his words further. In response, Charlie sketches images that reveal he once had a wife and children. Overwhelmed by emotion, he starts pacing frantically, repeating the words associated with his family. Diane pieces together that Charlie is desperately asking about their whereabouts. Their exchange is abruptly interrupted by the sound of a helicopter overhead. Charlie spots it and immediately becomes agitated, scaling the rocks while repeatedly shouting "Beta," which translates to bird. The scientists attempt to disperse the helicopter, but Charlie remains inconsolable. He climbs to the highest point of the vivarium, continuing to yell "Beta." Later, Stanley visits an Eskimo tribe and shares the words Charlie has been using. The tribe recognizes them and explains that Beta refers to Sedna, a mythical giant bird believed to be a divine messenger. According to legend, Sedna carries souls to either heaven or hell based on their deeds in life. Stanley formulates a theory. Charlie's tribe perished during a catastrophic event, the flipping of Earth's magnetic poles, which wiped out the animals they relied on. Charlie, interpreting this as divine punishment, embarked on a dream walk, hoping to encounter Sedna and offer himself in exchange for the animal's revival. Now, Charlie has mistaken the helicopter for Sedna, and his panic is uncontrollable. 34 hours later, Charlie is adorned in all the clothing, tools, and trinkets Stanley has provided him. He smears crushed berries on his skin and chants continuously, awaiting the return of his god. Whenever Stanley enters the vivarium, Charlie hides, refusing to engage. One day, Charlie recalls observing Stanley using the stairs and decides to mimic him. He sneaks into the lab, navigating the halls stealthily to avoid detection. Upon finding a mirror, he growls at his reflection, mistaking it for a rival. In a fit of rage, he shatters the mirror with his spear. Startled by a voice emanating from the speakers, Charlie flees down the hallway and stumbles into a room housing lab animals. After examining a bird, he is alarmed by the growl of a bear and continues his frantic escape. He attempts to pass through another corridor but collides with glass doors. On his second try, the doors open, leading him into a new room. The sound of a moving vehicle terrifies him, and he hides behind a copy machine, accidentally activating it. He dashes away, but upon hearing the noise of an elevator, enters a lab and accidentally breaks a jar containing acid, which slightly burns his hand. Suddenly, the lights go out, plunging Charlie into panic. He climbs onto furniture, slipping and damaging equipment. A scientist hears the commotion and enters, restoring the lights. Charlie attacks, fatally striking the man with his spear. He then flees, growing increasingly frantic as an alarm blares. He discovers a tunnel that grows colder as he progresses. Reaching a fire exit, he bursts outside and spots the helicopter. He chases after it, but the pilot strikes him with the skis, knocking him unconscious. The scientists eventually recover Charlie and bring him back inside. Shortly after, they review X-rays confirming that Charlie has no broken bones or head injuries. The scientists direct their anger at Stanley, holding his research responsible for their colleague's death. They declare the experiments concluded and announce that Charlie will be transferred to another facility. Stanley argues that confining Charlie to a cage will lead to his death, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. Determined to save Charlie, Stanley secretly negotiates with the guard at the door. He later enters the vivarium with furs to shield Charlie from the cold and takes him for a walk. The scientists soon notice their absence and follow their footprints in the snow. As they walk, an ice shelf collapses, creating a crevasse that separates Stanley and Charlie. When the helicopter locates them, Charlie becomes ecstatic, shouting and clinging to the skis. He chants joyfully during the flight. As one of the pilots reaches for him, Charlie releases his grip and falls, gliding for several miles before meeting his tragic end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more thrilling tales. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest content.